The Chicago Bears have now finalized the site and their plans for the next stadium, and Chicago Bears are staying in Chicago. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, as free agency is opening, we're going to talk about the most realistic free agent options for the Chicago Bears in the 2024 free agency. We're getting into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this content for today. So the Chicago Bears have now finally, after months, basically a year of discussion on what the new stadium was going to be, after the Bears have already, decided to purchase Arlington Heights, the property at Arlington Heights. The Bears have now decided that they will be building a new stadium in the area of Waldron Drive, south of where Soldier Field is now. They will be contributing $2 billion to the new stadium as well, and it's going to open up a space for a museum on campus and some other things there. The idea of the location is to host a Super Bowl, an NCAA Final Four, and other major events. Now, the thing with this stadium, this new stadium, is that it's going to be publicly owned. So the Chicago Bears are not going to wholly own that stadium like they were planning on owning Arlington Heights, but it is still a new stadium that's now guaranteed to happen. It's going to be a while before they break ground. So want to be clear here, this is not something where we'll have the new stadium in a year or two or anything like that. It's probably going to be about 5 years before that new stadium is built. But it is now that we can finalize, the questions are going to be removed on where the new stadium is going to be. They're going to stay on the lakefront, which is an important part, especially when you look at the White Sox building their new stadium and then the Chicago Bulls stadium, the United Center not being too far. So it keeps the Bears in the heart of downtown Chicago, like many people are hoping for anyway. And, again, while the idea of Arlington Heights and what they wanted to do for that property, building really a center, right? Building museums and hotels and restaurants and epicenters and things like that. It was great. And the Bears are going to make a lot of money on if that was able to happen. But it seemed like once Arlington Heights decided to, give them a little pushback on the taxes, the Bears pivoted and the city of Chicago was right there after kind of facing what that looked like in the fear of losing the team. And now they're staying there, and Chicago Bears will be on Waldron Drive, still near Waldron Drive, still close to the lakefront, and I think that's the best thing, right? Soldier Field is still it's a great stadium for Bears fans, but it's long in the tooth. It's one of the oldest, I think it is the oldest stadium in the NFL, and it's also the smallest per capacity. And so, the Chicago Bears were overdue for a new stadium, and I think now with the new phase of the team and everything like that, we'll see where the Bears are, where that sits, but it is going to open up an opportunity to host a Super Bowl. And I'll tell you what, if Chicago hosts the Super Bowl, not only will me and the whole team be there, but that's going to be something that is great for the city overall. So it makes sense. The one thing about this is the fact that it's going to be still kind of publicly owned and the city's still going to have a lot of say in it. It's a little concern there, but, that relationship has been there since the Bears have been in Chicago. And so, clearly Kevin Warren and the Chicago Bears felt comfortable enough in what was presented for them from the city of Chicago to make that move. Not really moving, but now we know it's going to be a huge stadium built. It's going to be a dome stadium. It's going to be covered. They've already said it's not going to be a retractable dome. So we'll see now. It's a new phase of Chicago Bears football once that does happen. So we'll talk about it. But with that said, now getting off of that, I do want to talk about the Bears and of course, free agency, the legal tampering period being officially open and things like that. There are going to be a lot of things announced. You're going to get a lot of breaking news videos from us here at Chicago Bears Central. So stay tuned in. Hit that subscribe button, whether you're on the podcast side or YouTube side. If you want that breaking news, we'll really get it dropping that. But it's now the Bears have already made some moves, right? We know that they traded for Ryan Bates. They signed Kevin Byard to a 2-year deal yesterday. And this is like always, and I feel like I always kind of have to set this. People, of course, have taken that to mean, what does this mean for the quarterback position? This absolutely means because they signed a 30-year-old safety that they're going to keep Justin Fields. I got to debunk everything. Right now, everything is still up in air. The Chicago Bears defense is a thing that is the closest to being exactly what they want it to be. So them signing a veteran safety in no way means that they're going to hold on to Justin Fields. It does not mean that they're going to trade him either. But again, I'm a narrative debunker. I don't like to like to have those narratives out there and not kind of try to address them. Listen, the signing of Kevin Byard is a good signing regardless of whatever's going on. It's just a good signing. It's a good, solid signing for a veteran safety that's not that much money, that you get in there that's going to add some veteran leadership to your already young safety core. It gives you flexibility to also draft a safety if you can find one, or gives you another couple of years to find that next safety before the contract increases for Jaquan Brisker, for Kyler Gordon, for Tyreek Stevenson. So that's more so what that is, right? I don't think that this means anything. And keep in mind, like I said before, the Bears are pushing to make the playoffs. And that means that not relying on just the quarterback. That means having a defense that could be a good enough defense to push you to the playoffs alone based off the strength of how good that defense can be from top to bottom. So anybody who's saying that this means any indication of what the Bears are going to do with the quarterback situation, I kind of got to fight back against that. Now, that's not to say that as free agency continues on, that picture can't become more clear. But as it stands right now, I gotta be forward in it. It does not mean one way or another for that quarterback situation. It just means that they found a solid piece to their defense, and they're already trying to improve that defense. We got to stop trying to grasp for breadcrumbs when the move is a pretty straightforward move. You get a veteran who's better than what you had in Eddie Jackson there for a cheaper price, much cheaper, about $11 million cheaper than what it would have cost for Eddie Jackson to stay here. And that's just what it is. That's all that is. And that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. And we'll see how the Bears are going to continue to go forward in that. Now, with that said, free agency is upon us now. And the Chicago Bears have some really big decisions to make. And I want to give, I know there's some really big free agents out there, the Saquon Barkleys, the Danielle Hunters, that really a lot of Bears fans are hoping that the Chicago Bears are going to be able to go after. But I want to give kind of a more realistic take on some free agents that, considering what the Bears, all the positions that they have to fill, the fact that they have, now it came down, with all the salary. This is even with the way they structured Jaquan Brisker's contract. The Bears are going to sit around $62 million in cap space. Now, in my cap projections, have been taking away from what the draft selections that the Bears are going to have in. So I'm trying to take that away. They're still going to get the Bears lower to about $50 million, if not a little bit less than that, probably between $45 and $50 million. But with that said, the Bears have right now $62 million in cap space. So I want to give a realistic set of free agents that the Bears could target. Now, first I want to talk about is the wide receiver position. We all know that the Bears definitely need to go after and get, and that's Curtis Samuel. This is a guy who's actually been mentioned as a potential target by the Chicago Bears, by not only us, but other outlets as well. And you look at it, Curtis Samuel's projected right now to sign a deal for 2 years, $17 million. That's a really reasonable contract for a 27-year-old wideout. Now, here's what I'll say. If you do get Curtis Samuel, who did play for OSU, so shout out there, 62 yards receiving last year for 613 yards, 44 touchdown receptions in that time, had an average reception of 9.9, basically 10 yards per reception in that. And this is another solid acquisition. This is one that we've kind of seen Brian Poles do before. If you're not hitting the home run free agent signings, is signings that still have potential to be better, much better, right? And to grow in the right scheme. He's 5'11", 195 pounds, kind of fits in that Darnell Mooney mold, but somebody who you kind of feel more comfortable at, especially if you're playing him in that slot. So Curtis Samuel is somebody I definitely think could be on the Chicago Bears target list. I think he should. He fits the team need. He's solid. And, if Darnell Mooney is not coming back, which there's some doubt or questions on if he is, I think you get him for a lot. And regardless of who the quarterback is, again, I think it'll be a solid one. He also used to play with DJ Moore as well, and they have a strong relationship, and there's a scheme fit is there as well. So I like the proposition of Curtis Samuel signing with the Chicago Bears. I think he's somebody who should absolutely be on their list as they go forward in free agency. The next one that I want to talk about is a offensive lineman. This is a guy who split time between the guard and the center position. I know we traded for Ryan Bates, who Bears have said he is going to get an opportunity to earn that starting center position. But by saying to earn it, it means they're going to bring in competition for him as well. And I'm looking at Aaron Brewer being a potential target here for the Chicago Bears. Again, another versatile weapon that you can use in either in multiple spots on that offensive line. And so that's another reason why I really like him. He played with the Tennessee Titans last year, 26 years old, 6'1", 274 pounds. This is a guy, he's in his fourth season in the NFL. Like I said, fairly young, kind of fits that timeline. And if you do draft a center or whatever else happens, this is another guy who can turn into a solid depth piece for you. And we know that the Chicago Bears need depth on that offensive line. So I do think that he's another guy that could really play well for it. He played both guard and center over the course of his career. So there you go. I think I liked him as well. He started all of 2023. He earned the starting job in late 2022. So he's a guy that I think definitely the Bears could go after. And he's not going to command a whole hell of a lot of money, not projected to sign a whole hell of a lot of money. 3 years, $20 million is what Pro Football Focus has his contract projected at. That's a solid deal for a young piece that you can get in here that's better than Lucas Patrick, better than Cody Whitehair, and is a versatile offensive lineman to bring in some competition at that center position that I think would do wonders for the Chicago Bears. The next one is one of the bigger names on this list, and this is a guy that's at a big position of need, in my opinion, for the Chicago Bears and many people's opinion. The next one I'm going to talk about is Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff is a guy that I absolutely would love to see the Bears go out and target. You look at bringing him in and what he can contribute to teams. 10 sacks last year that he had. He's only 25 years old, so he's still young enough, right? I think that if they go after Bryce Huff, that would potentially mean that they're not going to probably draft a edge, especially with his age and the money that he has. But what you'll be getting in Bryce Huff is you'll be getting an edge that can come out there and be on the other side of Montez Sweat. And while Montez Sweat is solid in both the pass and the rushing game, Bryce Huff is basically a pass rush specialist when it comes to. He's not the best run defender, which was the same thing said about Yannick Ngakoue, right? So there may be some concerns there, but he's much younger. Does not bring some of the same questions. And I like the prospect of having Bryce Huff, Montez Sweat, and then you still have DeMarcus Walker, who can move between interior and exterior defensive linemen, and you have some really good versatility there. Javon Dexter, adding him to that, that's a defensive line that I would really love. And PFF has him projected as signing a 3-year, $50 million deal. So it's not breaking the bank like it would for like a Brian Burns, but Bryce Huff is somebody who can absolutely help the Chicago Bears at one of our biggest positions that is going to be focused on. And I think he can do wonders for the Chicago Bears. So Bryce Huff is a guy that I would love to see him. Of course, people have talked about Brian Burns and things like that, but Bryce Huff is somebody that I think can come in, bring exactly what you need in the pass rush, opposite Montez Sweat. And at that point, what you already have on that defensive line with Billings, Walker, Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens, if he develops, I really like the combination of that. Now, while we also did get a center yesterday that is projected to be our starting center, there's another player that the Bears could target for some more depth there, and that's Quandre Diggs. Now, 31 years old, he'd be a nothing but a depth piece signing at that point in time, which the Bears have already got in another kind of special team and depth guy at the safety position. So not necessarily suggesting that they may go after him. He could be a very cheap option. PFF has him signing for basically only a few $1 million. So that's an opportunity for it. But I think we already found our starting safety, but it's somebody who could absolutely be there on the target list for the Chicago Bears. Now, a guy that played for our offensive coordinator before that the Bears could absolutely target as well is Kobe Parkinson. Now, this is another guy who you can be gotten. He's familiar with the scheme, already working with Shane Waldron. He'll be following his offensive coordinator. We've seen that happen over the NFL before. And this is a guy that I really like his overall skill set. Has some shortcomings, of course. It's not the best signing, but to bring in another tight end to pair with Cole Kmet on the opposite side of that. I know everybody's talked about Noah Fant and things like that, and he's absolutely somebody that could also be there for the Bears. I like Kobe Parkinson, 247 yards receiving last year on 25 receptions, 2 touchdowns that he's had there. He's only 25 years old, 6'7", 251 pounds. So he's absolutely a guy that could fill in. And we know that Shane Waldron likes going to those tight ends a lot. So having 2 tight ends, especially that can be used in the passing game, is a lot there. Kobe Parkinson is somebody we talked about before. He in the last 2 years, he had 247 yards receiving last year on 34 targets. The season before that, he had also 34 targets and 25 receptions. He had 322 yards there and 2 touchdowns there as well. So solid enough as a depth piece. I really like the potential of bringing this guy in. And again, there's some familiarity there with Shane Waldron is there that could be really big for the Chicago Bears also in there. So again, another realistic target for the Chicago Bears. Another one, we could be looking for some depth at that defensive tackle, could be depending on what we do. And another one that I think the Bears could take a look at, not saying that they will, it is somebody that they could take a look at, is Daquan Jones. Now, Bobby's brought this guy up before. He's 32 years old, so to be just specifically a depth piece, you would be looking at getting some younger players that kind of maximize your younger players. He had 2.5 sacks last year. 32 years old, 6'4", 320 pounds. This guy played for the Buffalo Bills last year. He's a vet. You can come in, bring some depth there. When you look at it, he hasn't had a season of having less than 2 sacks in the last 4 seasons. So, again, a depth piece, not somebody that you're looking at to rely a whole hell of a lot of times, but because of Eric Washington and how often he does like to switch around and bring bring in keep everybody fresh on that defensive line. I think some depth on that defensive line is going to be important this offseason because of what your defensive coordinator likes to do with that D-line, and he's a guy that absolutely can fill into that role for the Chicago Bears. And then another wideout that the Bears could take a look at, a little bit of an older target here, but this is Noah Brown. Now, this is a guy, 33 receptions last year for 567 yards, 2 touchdowns in that time. So he's a guy, again, that to me, if you sign a guy like this, that would signal that you are going to go wide receiver with probably your number 9 pick or somewhere in that first round. And he's somebody that, again, he's solid enough. He's had 1,112 yards over the past 2 seasons. When you look at like another depth wide receiver that we had is Equinami St. Brown. He's only had 385 yards receiving for the last 2 years. So he is somebody that can come in, play a role for the Chicago Bears. He also, has some familiarity with the system. So I like the potential. If we lose Equinami St. Brown, which it does seem like the Bears aren't going to bring him back, Noah Brown is somebody that you can absolutely bring in as well that I think would do great work for the Chicago Bears. And then the last one that I'm going to bring up is Dinko Archery, I believe is how you say it. This is another guy who would be a solid addition on that defensive line for the Chicago Bears. Again, the thing I keep going back to is Eric Washington really likes that depth there at that D-line position. So what he's able to bring in, he had 11 and a half sacks last year. He's 33 years old. So it's not like he's coming off a season that's still a really big season. PFF still does not project him to go for a whole hell of a lot of money. 2 years, $18 million, I think is a solid enough deal for a little bit 33-year-old. There may be some questions there, but I like the guy to come in, bring some depth for that D-line, especially if you bring in a rookie that you're not sure is going to be starting, which I think if they're going to draft a rookie DN, I think it's probably going to be starting, but another guy that the Bears absolutely could take a look at to bring in some of that depth. But overall, that's the realistic targets that I have here. Of course, there are other targets for the Chicago Bears that they absolutely bring in. Christian Wilkins is another guy that we've talked about previously. 9 sacks, 23 QB hits last year. He's going to probably take a huge pretty penny, but he is that dominant 3-tech that Matt Eberflus does covet big time, and I think that they can target him as well. But again, that would cost a lot more money for him. The Saquon Barkleys, the Danielle Hunters, we already know what that's going to cost. That's going to cost a pretty penny, but there keep being things that link the Chicago Bears to Saquon Barkley. And with me saying that, even though I think that that's doubtful that's going to happen, there's still a lot there that says that maybe he could be on that list. So we'll end up seeing what happens there, man. But overall, the Bears, it's going to be an exciting time in free agency. Stay tuned in, stay locked in with us. It seems like the Atlanta Falcons also are out on the Justin Fields thing there with them targeting Kirk Cousins is the last report that we saw. They've moved on from the Justin Fields potential trade. Doesn't mean they could come back in if they strike out, right? But seems like that's probably going to happen. Russell Wilson also went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, so that takes another rumored team that was interested in Justin Fields off the board. So how things are going, that's if the Bears are even really looking to trade Justin Fields. Ryan Poles is still playing this, and he's playing a lot of people as far as his true intentions, and I think he's keeping those intentions very close to the chest as he should be. And we'll see what the Bears target, what they end up doing. And at the end of the day, man, this is going to be a fun offseason, and Chicago Bears Central is going to be there every single day for you to break everything down. We're going to be bringing those breaking news videos. There's going to be rare that people have news out before us. So with that subscription, if you hit the subscribe button, we're going to be giving you the breaking news 7 days a week, or we dropping episodes at Chicago Bears Central 7 days a week, and multiple episodes of that some of those days because of news breaking and things like that. So we'll see how things go, man. I appreciate you guys so much for just tuning in, supporting the channel like you guys have through the offseason. Make sure you're following the channel at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. Thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.